I grew up in northern Minnesota, where December doesn't feel like winter. It feels like punishment. Snowstorms there come without warning. And when they do, you stay inside no matter what. But in 2018, I had to learn that lesson the hard way. I was 22, living alone in a small cabin near the edge of town. My parents liked their privacy, so they bought land far from any neighbors. When they moved south that year, I stayed behind, thinking I could handle one more winter alone. That December, a massive snowstorm rolled in, one of the worst the local news had predicted in years. By 7 p.m., winds screamed around the cabin like wolves circling prey. Snow hammered the windows so heavily you couldn't even see outside. I had stocked up on wood, food, and candles earlier, so I wasn't worried, not until the lights started flickering. By 8:30, the power went out completely. The cabin sank into a thick, suffocating silence except for the storm outside. I lit a lantern, sat on the couch, and tried to distract myself with a book. But 10 minutes later, I heard it. A knock. At first, I thought it was just the wind slamming snow against the siding, but then it came again, slow, deliberate, and unmistakably human. Knock, knock, knock. I froze. Who the hell would be out here in a storm like this? I walked to the front window and wiped the frost with my sleeve. Nothing, just blackness and swirling snow. Then came a voice, muffled, shaky. Help, please. Open the door. My stomach dropped. Someone was out there. I hesitated. Every instinct told me not to open that door. But what if it was someone injured? Someone freezing to death? I grabbed my coat, unlatched the door, and opened it just enough to look outside. No one was there. My lantern barely cut through the blizzard, but I could see the untouched snow on the porch. No footprints. Nothing. Hello. I called out. No answer. I shut the door fast, locked it, and backed away. The knocking returned immediately, this time from the back door. I nearly dropped the lantern. Help, please. The voice was clearer now, still shaky, but wrong somehow. Like someone trying too hard to sound desperate. I crept to the back door. Same situation. No one outside. No footprints. No shadows. Just an empty, frozen hell. I locked the back door again and stepped away. The storm howled louder, almost drowning out the sound when something scraped across the exterior siding. Slow, dragging like long fingers tracing the walls. Then a whisper came through the kitchen window. Let me in. I'm cold. I didn't dare look. I went to grab my phone, only to remember I'd left it charging on a dead outlet. Power was gone. The scraping stopped. The house became silent again, aside from the wind. I held my breath, waiting for the next knock. Instead, something pressed against the living room window. A dark silhouette. A head, leaning forward, inches from the glass. My lantern flickered, and for a split second, I saw it clearly. A face, pale blue, lips cracked open, eyes too wide, too unblinking. And a smile. God, that smile. It stretched far beyond anything human. Warmth, it whispered through the glass. Let me in, please. I stumbled backward in terror. The thing didn't blink, didn't move, just stared at me. Then, without warning, it slammed its forehead against the window. Thud! I screamed. It hit again, and again. The glass groaned under the pressure. I didn't wait. I grabbed my boots, my keys, and bolted into the storm through the side door. The wind stabbed my face with icy needles. Visibility was almost zero, but I forced myself toward the tree-lean, the only cover I had. Behind me, through the roar of the storm, I heard the cabin door slam open. It got inside. I hid behind a snow-covered pine, trying to control my breathing. The cabin lights were out, but I could see a faint glow, my lantern, moving inside. It was searching. I stayed there for nearly 30 minutes until the glow finally moved away from the windows. Then silence. The next morning, the storm ended. Emergency crews came looking for people who'd lost power. When they reached my cabin, the front door was hanging open. My lantern was shattered inside. The furniture was overturned, but nothing was stolen. And on the floor, leading from window to window, were long, thin trails of ice, like something dripping frozen water as it moved. There were no footprints, no signs of an intruder. Authorities' assumed panic from isolation made me imagine things. But I still live with one memory I can't forget. Just before I fled into the storm, the creature outside whispered, "If you leave, I'll find you again, next snowfall." And every December, whenever the first snowstorm hits, I sleep with all the lights on, just in case. I work as a paramedic in northern Colorado, a place where December doesn't forgive mistakes. The highways there stretch across empty plains, and during winter, the wind can whip up a whiteout so fast it feels like the world disappears. This happened in December of 2019. I still remember the date, December 23rd, because I had just finished a brutal double shift and wanted nothing more than to sleep for a full day. A snowstorm warning had been issued, but I thought I could beat it home. I was wrong. The wind picked up fast, turning the road into a blur of white. My wipers fought a losing battle as snow slammed into the windshield. The radio kept cutting in and out, repeating the same message. Visibility 0 on Highway 95. Avoid travel. Repeat, avoid travel. But was too late for that. I was already on it. I slowed to a crawl, knuckles white on the steering wheel. The world around me vanished. No sky, no road, no horizon. Just swirling snow, swallowing everything whole. After about 10 minutes of creeping forward, I saw something. A tall figure standing on the side of the road. I nearly slammed on the brakes. For a moment, I thought it was just a plow marker or a signpost, but then it moved slowly, turning toward my headlights. Someone was out here, walking, in this storm. I pulled over, careful not to skid, and rolled the window down slightly. "Hey, you okay?" I shouted through the wind. The figure stepped closer. He was wearing a long black coat, completely covered in snow. His hair was iced over, face pale, lips almost blue. No hat, no gloves, no bag, nothing. He leaned toward my window. "Can you give me a ride?" he said quietly. His voice didn't match his appearance. It wasn't shaky or breathless. It was calm, too calm, as if the storm didn't affect him at all. Still, I couldn't leave someone out here. I unlocked the door. He got in without saying another word, closing the door gently behind him. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. I kept driving, visibility still 0, the storm hammering every inch of the truck. "You picked a bad night to walk out here," I said. He didn't respond. I glanced sideways. He was staring forward, not blinking, not shivering, not even breathing hard. His hands were folded neatly in his lap. I tried again. "Where are you headed?" He slowly turned his head toward me. "Home," he whispered. Something about that single word made my stomach twist. "Where's home?" I asked. He paused, then pointed straight ahead into the white void. "Just keep driving," he said. It felt wrong, but what else could I do? Turning around was impossible in this visibility, and stopping in place would get us buried in minutes. Minutes turned into an hour. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He didn't warm up. At one point, I noticed something strange. Snow clung to his coat when he entered. Thick, wet chunks. But now, the snow wasn't melting. Not a single drop of water anywhere. "Hey," I said carefully, "how long were you out there?" He didn't answer. Instead, slowly, he leaned forward and pressed his forehead against the dashboard, his face now inches from the windshield. "Slow down," he whispered. "What? What?" Before I could ask again, a massive shape appeared in front of us. A jackknifed semi-truck lay across the highway, invisible until the very last second. I slammed the brakes, so hard the seatbelt nearly crushed my chest. The truck skidded sideways, tires screaming over the ice. We stopped inches away from the semi's undercarriage. My heart hammered in my chest. If he hadn't warned me, we would have died instantly. I looked at him. "How did you?" But the passenger seat was empty. He was gone. Door still locked. No footprints on the floor. No melted snow. I panicked, grabbing the flashlight from my glove box, shining it around the truck interior. Nothing. I jumped out of the vehicle, shouting into the storm. No answer. Confused and shaken, I stumbled toward the semi-truck. The driver's cab was crushed. A man was banging weakly on the broken window. "Help!" he cried. I managed to pull him out through the side door. His face was pale, cut but alive. As I guided him back toward my truck, he looked around in fear. "You alone out here?" I asked. He shook his head violently. "No. Someone was standing in the road waving at me to slow down, but I didn't see him until it was too late. I hit ice, lost control. His voice cracked. He saved my life. He waved me down, but when I got closer, he just disappeared. My blood turned to ice. Tall guy? Black coat? No hat or gloves. The trucker's eyes widened. You saw him too? Before I could answer, a strong gust of wind ripped through the storm, and both of us heard something. Knocking. Knuckles. On glass. We turned slowly toward my truck. The passenger window was fogged over, and a handprint, large, wet, and dripping frost, pressed against the glass from outside. Then the print melted, but the snow around it didn't. I pulled the trucker away, and we backed up into the storm. The handprint slowly slid down the window. The knocking continued. I forced myself to walk back and open the driver's door. The cabin was empty. Then behind us, a voice whispered, "Keep driving." We spun around. Nothing there. Just the whiteout. Just the storm. Just the endless snow swallowing sound. We climbed into the truck, shaking. I started driving again, the semi-driver beside me. "Where do we go?" he asked. Before I could answer, the radio crackled violently. Through the static came the same calm voice. "Home." My heart dropped into my stomach. The trucker looked horrified. What the hell was that? I didn't respond. We drove in silence until the storm finally cleared enough to see the road. After 10 minutes, we reached a gas station full of stranded vehicles. We ran inside, both terrified, breathless. The cashier stared at us. "You guys look like hell. Highway's been closed since yesterday. Nobody's supposed to be out there." I froze. "Yesterday? What do you mean?" "The plows found a guy last night," he said, voice low. Tall man. Black coat. Try to walk home in the storm. He froze to death near mile marker 14. I felt the world tilt. "What time?" I asked. 9 p.m., the cashier said. "Coroner picked him up this morning." The trucker and I exchanged a look of pure dread. It was impossible. It didn't make sense. But we both heard him. We both saw him. And he had saved both our lives. To this day, every December storm on Highway 95 takes me back to that night. Sometimes, even now, when visibility drops and snow covers the world in white, I hear a soft knock on my passenger window. Just once. Just enough to make me look. And sometimes, for a split second, I swear I still see a tall man standing in the storm, pointing ahead, guiding me through the whiteout. I've lived my whole life in northern Wyoming, where December snowstorms hit fast and without mercy. But nothing, absolutely nothing, comes close to what I experienced in 2017 when I was 20. Every winter, my friends and I hiked a trail behind my family's property. We knew every tree, every frozen stream, every worn-down marker. That December, a storm rolled in earlier than usual, dumping nearly 2 feet of snow overnight. The next morning, despite the weather, my friend Derek convinced me to take the hike anyway. "It's untouched snow, man," he said. "Best time to go." I should have said no. We bundled up, grabbed our gear, and headed into the woods. For the first half mile, everything seemed normal. Snow hanging heavy off branches, air sharp and biting. But then I noticed something strange. A trail of footprints. Long, deep, spaced too far apart to be normal human steps. And they weren't fresh. Snow had settled into them, suggesting they'd been made before the storm. How could someone be out here before the snowfall? I asked. Derek shrugged. Hunter maybe, but I knew every hunter in the area. Nobody would be out here during a predicted blizzard. Still, we followed the prints. Curiosity drowned out common sense. After about 20 minutes, we reached a clearing we'd seen 1,000 times before. Except today, something new stood in the middle of it. A cabin. Small, old, dark wood, windows frosted over, chimney cracked and leaning, and the door slightly open. "We've hiked this trail since middle school," I whispered. "This wasn't here." Derek laughed nervously. "Maybe we just never went far enough." But we had. We'd been here dozens of times. My stomach twisted. Something was wrong. The cabin looked ancient, like it had been abandoned for decades. But the snow on the roof was uneven, disturbed, as if someone had walked on it recently. "What if someone's inside?" Derek asked. Before I could answer, the door creaked. Slowly, Invitingly, Derek stepped forward. I grabbed his arm. Dude, no. What if someone needs help? He insisted. Against everything screaming in my head, we approached the door. The inside was freezing, colder than outside. The air felt heavy, thick, like something was pressing down on my chest. The cabin was a single room, rotting wooden floorboards, a small broken table, a bed frame with no mattress, and a fireplace filled with ash. But the strangest part? Footprints. All over the floor. Dozens of them. Different sizes. Different directions. Like a crowd had been inside. Yet the room was empty. This is insane, I whispered. This cabin shouldn't even be here. Derek knelt beside the fireplace. Dude, feel this. I hesitated, then touched the ash. Warm. Someone had used it recently. Suddenly, a sharp bang shook the cabin. Something hit the wall from outside. Hard. We both froze. A second bang. Then a third. Moving around the cabin. Something was circling us. We should go, Derek whispered. We stepped back toward the door, but as we reached it, we saw something that made my blood turn to ice. Footprints appeared in the snow outside. Fresh. Right in front of the doorway. But no one was there. I'm not staying another second, I said. We ran outside, into the clearing. Snow whipped violently around us. We have to get back to the trail, Derek shouted. We sprinted toward the trees. After about 10 seconds, I turned around to check if anything was following us. The cabin was gone. Completely. Nothing but untouched snow where it had stood minutes ago. My legs nearly gave out. What the hell? Derek whispered, face pale. Before either of us could process it, a deep crack echoed in the woods, like a heavy branch snapping. Then another. Closer. We need to move, I yelled. We ran blindly through the forest, stumbling, gasping, slipping on ice. Snow blinded us, the world shrinking into white chaos. Every few seconds, I heard it behind us, something big, fast, snapping branches like toothpicks. But whenever I turned around, I saw nothing. Only the storm. Half an hour passed like this, running, listening, sprinting again. Then Derek stopped suddenly. What are you doing? I yelled. Look, he whispered. We had reached another clearing. A different one. But standing in the center was the same cabin. Same broken chimney. Same open door. As if it had been waiting for us. No, I whispered. No way. We didn't loop. We didn't turn around. This is impossible. The door creaked wider. Don't go near it, I said. We started backing away. But then we heard it. Footsteps. Behind us. Slow. Heavy. Crunching through the snow. Coming closer. Neither of us turned around. I whispered, Derek, run. We bolted toward the trees. I heard something slam into the ground behind us, loud enough to shake snow from branches. Whatever was in the storm was chasing us. We broke through the woods onto the old snowmobile trail. For the first time, I could see a familiar landmark, my family's fence line. We're almost there, I yelled. But when I looked beside me, Derek wasn't there. I stopped immediately, heart slamming in my throat. Derek, I screamed. Silence. Just wind. I ran back into the trees, yelling his name through the storm. Derek, where are you? No answer. Then a loud crack, like something being dragged. I followed the sound, stumbling through snow up to my knees until I reached a line of pine trees. Beyond them, the cabin. Back again, and Derek was standing in the doorway, motionless, staring at me. Derek, I yelled, running toward him. He didn't react, didn't blink, didn't breathe. He just stood there, looking at me. Come on, what are you doing? Let's go. As I got closer, I noticed something. His eyes. They were wrong. Completely white. Frost covering them like ice. Derek, I whispered. He smiled. Slowly. Too wide. Then from behind him a hand, long, pale, thin, gripped his shoulder. Another figure stepped forward. It wasn't human. It was tall. Frozen. Skin cracked like old ice. Its mouth stretched unnaturally wide, revealing snow-packed darkness inside. I ran. I didn't look back. The forest blurred. My vision tunneled. My breath tore through my lungs like fire. I didn't stop until I burst out of the trees onto my backyard, collapsing in the snow. My dad found me minutes later and dragged me inside. They searched for Derek that night. For 2 days. They found nothing. No footprints. No clothing. No signs that he'd ever entered the woods. The sheriff said we must have gotten separated and Derek wandered off disoriented. But know what I saw? 3 days later, after another snowfall, I looked out my bedroom window at dawn. There, at the edge of the tree line, the cabin stood in the snow. Door open, smoke rising from the chimney. And beside it, in the pale morning light, stood Derek, smiling, wide-eyed, motionless. I blinked once. The snow shifted, the cabin faded, and they were both gone. Every December since then, after the first major snowfall, I see it again. The cabin returns. Smoke rising. Door open. Sometimes a shadow moves inside. Sometimes a face. Sometimes Derek. And each year, it's a little closer to my house.